Hey, Sue Gruen.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well.
Oh, I have a fuzzy picture.
Your picture is fuzzy.
Ooh, that's weird.
Hey, Kristen Dolan.
Alexa, all AirPods.
Good evening, everyone.
Told you that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we just need a couple more folks and we'll have a quorum. All right, we'll give folks just another minute or two to join. We do have a quorum, but we'll just give another minute for folks who might be trying to get logged in.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Tina.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to make sure I'm working on a different computer than I'm used to. Want to make sure you could hear me.
We can hear you.
Even better than usual.
All right.
Yeah, that's 10 years off. You look so young. Okay, Miss Wetmore. He's trying, oh, there she is. Okay, very good. Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started then? Hopefully, I know there's a couple folks who can't make it tonight, and hopefully anyone else who's trying to get on will be on soon. I will open this meeting of the Hamden Legislative Council at 7:00 p.m. Ms. Renta, could you take the roll, please?
Mr. Alston? Councilman Alston? Councilwoman Baez?
Here.
Councilwoman Bonadies?
She's not gonna make it tonight.
Councilman Caesar?
Present.
Councilwoman Klaus? Councilwoman Dolan? Here. Councilman Farmer?
Present.
Councilwoman Horsley?
She won't be able to make it.
Councilwoman Gary?
Yes, I'm here.
Councilman McDowell?
Here.
President Gary?
Present.
Councilwoman Roe Lewis?
Present.
Councilwoman Shoemaker?
Here.
Councilman Weber?
Here.
Councilwoman Wetmore?
Here.
11 present, 4 absent.
I think you for our moment of silence tonight, if we could hold in our hearts and minds the family of the fireman who fell in the line of duty in New Haven, firefighter Richard Torres Jr., and also Lieutenant Sandra Rankin, who was seriously injured. Thankfully, these sorts of accidents are few and far between, but it is part of the danger of the job. So hold their families in our hearts, please, during our moment of silence. Councilor Caesar, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Thank you, yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United States of America.
and to the republic,
Republic for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
I will open our public input session. Ms. Renta, did we receive any written public input for tonight's meeting?
We did not.
Thank you. But we'll open up to those in attendance. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the council on an item on the council agenda or under the purview of the council, please raise your hand and have your full name as your Zoom ID. And then, although it seems redundant, please state your name for the record when you speak, and you would have 3 minutes. Is there anyone for the public who would like to address the council on an item on the council agenda or under the purview of the council? Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the council on an item on the agenda or on an item that is under the purview of the council? Is there anyone who would like to address the council on an item under the purview of the council or on the council agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none, I will close public input. We do not have any correspondence this evening. We'll keep the report of the president relatively brief this evening. Again, repeated thanks to all in attendance for the entirety of our budget process. I'm very happy that we passed our budget, and it is it has been transmitted to Mayor, awaiting his action. So we will eagerly anticipate his next steps. We do have a couple of weeks off here, which is kind of nice. During that time, we started Civic Clerk and then kind of paused when we ran into some issues, and now we're going to restart Civic Clerk. So during our June meeting, we'll be running several council committee meetings with Civic Clerk, and hopefully the full meeting with Civic Clerk. that will have the voting aspect of it and the information processing aspect of it as well. Also, in the next week or two, during this little hiatus that we have a 2-week break, I will be checking in with our public safety folks about the possibility of returning back to in-person as things are starting to open up. But I do believe, as I said before, in our evolving time, we will maintain a hybrid sort of meeting with both in-person and in Zoom. As we have said before, our attendance is much greater via Zoom, and people are much more engaged in this way. So although I look forward to seeing everyone, we want to do so safely and also not remove the opportunity that so many people are utilizing via Zoom. And then just lastly, also today, our wonderful human resources officer, Ms. Cogswell, has re-engaged NCCJ. We'll pick some dates and restart our training there. So although we do have a little bit of a break coming, we also have some things coming up soon. That is all for me. Councilor Farmer.
Thank you, Council President. And good evening to our distinguished colleagues. I just had 2 questions. One, when will the budget be viewable to the public as amended? And 2, I think the deadline that we put was June 21st for the guideline of salaries. Can that also be the deadline for the capital budget? Through you, Chairman.
Working on the salary work. Thank you for the reminder. For the capital budget, I'll have a sit down with Mr. Jackson over the next few days and see where we're at. I think we're all eager to see our plans for capital. So we'll work out a date and figure that out. And in terms of viewing, Ms. Gruen, do we have to wait for action by the mayor, or it's published now after we signed it? Like, what about this little interim time?
Well, there's a whole process in the charter. So the mayor I don't have the timeline in front of me. I don't think I'll look to see if I have that in my paperwork. But right now the mayor has the opportunity to review the document, and in accordance with the charter, it's on his desk right now.
So we'll figure that out, Mr. Farmer. The mayor's got a lot of reading, I guess, right now. And now our next part of the agenda is our finance update. On the finance update, as part is our ice rink report. And I just did want to mention to folks that, the portion of the report that we have to speak to is, the financial documents. We did discuss the possibility of an executive session. However, to have a reason to go to executive session can be a little tricky. So at the present time, there didn't seem to be any documents that Mr. Jackson would be sharing this evening that would require an executive session. I've asked both Mr. Jackson and Ms. Gruen to closely monitor our conversation. If anything should happen to wander into the area that would require an executive session, Ms. Renta has prepared a room just to be on the safe side, but it does seem unlikely that an executive session would be necessary. But also remind folks, we are speaking to a vendor, so we have to keep our comments confined to the finances of the report that Mr. Jackson is going to be presenting us. And I hope it is a full and complete and thoughtful presentation, as I'm sure it will be. So Mr. Jackson, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I will actually start with a broader overview because I do not want the council to be in a different position or have different understanding than other entities, including the state of Connecticut. So our last presentation to the state of Connecticut indicated that our revenues were down by $8.8 million. Our expenses were down by $8.2 million, leaving a $600,000 delta. Now, that being said, those revenue numbers are as if we would never collect another dime in taxes, as if we would never collect anything in concessions, as if we would never collect any other revenue based upon COVID. So since those projections were issued, we have actually collected $100,000 in tax revenue, which means that delta went from $600,000 to $500,000. We know that the COVID dollars are coming in. When and how is a different question. So we have a level of confidence about our ability to end this year in the black to a significant number, based upon the town's sort of historic endings. So that's the big finance picture. The thing that I think we need to discuss today is the ice rink. I have about 3/4 of an inch of documents that I was not able to provide you because it includes account numbers, names, addresses, which are the sort of the pillar of fraud. If you have those pieces of information, a fraudulent actor can act on that behalf. So I will have those available in my office and in the town attorney's office at opening of business tomorrow. The truth of the rink is this: it loses money, and it loses money because we have chosen for it to lose money. And by that I mean, we have said we will subsidize certain activities, certain Hamden-based activities. So even though it's operated by a different entity, we want to maintain it as a town asset. So Hamden Public Schools is subsidized to the point or to the rate of approximately $194,000 a year. Hamden Youth Hockey is subsidized to the rate of approximately $40,000 a year. So, and I think it was Councilor McDowell who, during the budget process, said, "Hey, other rinks make money. How come we don't?" This is the reason, and it's written into the contractual documents that that Ms. Renta sent out over the weekend. We can, or not we, you can talk about whether or not you want to maintain these subsidies, if we were to release the operators to charge market rate, which is approximately $455,000 an hour, we charge Hamden Public Schools $0. We charge Hamden Youth Hockey $325 an hour. That's where the subsidy lands. If this council has the will to address those subsidies, that is functionally where the profit or the results can go from negative to positive. There are a couple of other options. The ice rink, the Mix Avenue address isn't a real address. It is part of 2040 Dixwell Avenue. We could subdivide the parcel and sell the rink and have nothing more to do with it. We could engage in a capital expenditure to add another sheet of ice. We've all been in the rink, and this is, I know it's gonna sound a little bit nutty, but it's true. We could add another sheet of ice as a second floor to the rink. Or we
Excuse
could
me,
carve
can I make a point of clarification?
Certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson, for opining on everything. But is there a report that we could look at so that we can digest the numbers? And then perhaps we can talk about these ideas you have, but we really want to see the numbers. We want to see the audit. We want to see those bank deposits traced through. Can we have that information, please? So that we can go along with your...
Absolutely, you can have the information, but because of the way that it's presented, it's not fair and it's not safe to provide it.
Well, then let's go into executive session because we really want to see the numbers.
Well, I mean, the numbers are the numbers. It costs about $450,000 to run the rink.
Sorry, sir, those aren't the numbers we're looking for. We're looking to see the deposits. We want to see what income came into that bank account, and we want to see it come through to the town. And we want to be able to sort of we want the audit. And that is what the auditor is requiring. And that is also what MFAC requires. So we got to get it done. If we don't have it yet that you can share, we really need to do it.
I have the documents in front of me.
Okay, can you put them in front of us? Could we look at them?
It's a lot. I don't want to. You can
Well,
see absolutely. I mean, I think I think I am happy to provide the raw documents that go back to 2016.
Great.
I do
because
not
as the
want
chair
to.
of finance, I feel like I would be remiss in my responsibilities if I did not review this audit at this point. I feel like it is my job and my responsibility. And so even if it is a lot to parse through, I very much would like the information.
A point of clarification through you, Council President. How are we doing the queue tonight?
well, you guys have your hands up, but I did want to check in. So, Ms. Gruen, is this an action that can take us into?
So my understanding is your item on the agenda is a report from the finance department. And I understand Ms. Dolan isn't pleased with the report that's being presented. It sounds to me as if she's requesting certain documents that perhaps Mr. Jackson has to prepare, copy for 15 people. We redact any of the non-Hamden related information, redact bank account numbers, things like that, and prepare it for distribution. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what the documents are. There are certain allowances that will allow you into executive session for certain documents. I don't know if the reports Mr. Jackson is referring to are all those exemptions. If they are, you could go into executive session with the report. If they're not, you may not. That would not be an appropriate executive session. So without seeing, can I finish, please? Without seeing what those documents are, I can't make the judgment. I sent you the list of applicable exemptions, and that's the only way to get into the executive session.
So could we do a little comparison with what Mr. Jackson has in hand with the list? See if those match.
I don't have the documents. I can't do that for you. If, you know, I think that if there is a way for Mr. Jackson to, it sounds like you're asking for an audit. Okay, I don't know what's in the audit. If it's a public document, yes, you're entitled to it. I don't know what the document is, so it's very hard for me to say.
Okay, I'm just trying to look for a way that we can move forward here and get people the information they wish to see.
Sure.
You know,
I have a procedural suggestion. A lot of us have our hands up. Mr. President, why don't you canvass counselors for what our specific questions are related to the rink finances, and he can collect our questions and figure out how to extract information to respond to those questions. Is that a way to proceed?
yeah, well, let's give that, I'm not sure how to proceed. And I understand, you know, we do have to respect the privacy of the vendor because obviously they have.
If I may, it's not a question about the privacy of the vendor. It's about the privacy of some information that may be in the documents. For example, if there is a social security number on a document, it cannot be shared publicly. That would get you into an executive session. But if there is a document with another document that precedes it or succeeds it without a social security number, you may not go into executive session. So I cannot help you because I don't have the documents. It sounds like there's a stack of documents, some of which are entirely public and some of which are not.
Okay, but well, let's go with Councilor Shoemaker's suggestion and sort of get questions as much as we can. And, you know, we might just have to, while we're doing that, let's, we'll think of what we can do next. Councilor Farmer?
Just first off, a point of procedural order. We, you know, we are all concerned about these things, but we can't just all chime in like that. Just, it's not going to work for robust dialogue. So I'm just going to say that if we can work in a way that we can have some procedural order, otherwise we're going to end up jumping all over each other. So
Yeah.
I just want.
I have the list of, you know, it's you and then Councilor Shoemaker, then Councilor Dolan, and Councilor McDowell, and then Councilor Wetmore.
Great. I appreciate that, Council President. Through you, Attorney Gruen touched on the first thing, which I was going to say is like, all right, well, redact everything and then get it to us. I think there's a second question that Director Jackson can answer for us if there's any of those particulars that could get us into executive session. I think that'd be easier to flesh out some of the stuff that we want to ask in a way that's more robust so that we can, next time we meet, we can actually get to the heart of things in a more expedient way. The other way that I'm not sure if it's something that we can do, but our parliamentarian, Attorney Gruen, may be able to speak to this, which I dislike doing, but I'm pretty sure we could caucus individually between the two parties, look at the documents and come back together. I'm not sure of that, but thinking of creative ways so that we can get our questions as thoroughly answered today or present our questions as thoroughly as we can so that next time we meet, we can be more judicious and expedient to the process. So those are my thoughts and concerns through you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor Farmer. Ms. Gruen, what about that concept of caucusing?
I think that Mr. Jackson's concern, I think, is sharing the documents virtually. I think, I'm not sure, I don't mean to speak for him. I don't know what's in the documents that can or can't be shared. It's just impossible for me to guess. I see Ms. Dolan is smiling, but maybe she knows. I don't. I'm happy to help you facilitate getting this. If I know what we're going, all I saw on the agenda for tonight was a report by the finance director of the ice rink. And then immediately Mr. Jackson was cut off because that wasn't the report that you wanted. So, okay, let's do it again and do it right and get you what we can get you in a manner that we can do it. I know that if there's a stack of papers, there's no way I'm going to be going through those stack of papers tomorrow and redacting. I cannot get to it tomorrow, so I don't want to make promises. Happy to help you get what you want, how you want it, in a safe manner.
Understood. So why don't we continue questioning and see, and then we'll plan some next steps. Councilor Shoemaker?
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, what I would be interested in is a kind of a balance sheet. Are you kind of a balance sheet report where, I appreciated knowing what the subsidies to the rink are for the schools and the soccer league, but are there other hours of operation where it's open to the public and people are paying fees for the use of the rink? And is there a balance sheet where we can see those revenues where, we know what the town is paying the rink operator annually? Are there other revenues? And then line up what those subsidies are to the schools and the hockey league. And what are the utilities? I'd love to know what the electricity bills look like. And what are the staffing? Is all of the staffing handled under the manager, which I assume it is? But then what are the town's costs to, I don't know, I guess we own the Zamboni. I've learned that that's what that machine is. And we own it, so I assume we have to maintain it. And so then on the town side, what are the outlays that we have? And I don't know if extracting that kind of information is possible, but that's sort of how I'm thinking about how I would like to look at the rink. Because I remember when we did a lighting upgrade there about 4 years ago now, in 2017, I think, in the summer of 2017, the idea was that we were going to save a lot of money on the lights by upgrading to LEDs. So I've always wondered if those savings have actually transpired. And I think they have. But those are my questions. I don't know how to think about the costs and revenues and how those balance out, what it's actually costing us for the rink. And I assume the electricity bill is in with all the other electricity bills, so we'd have to pull that out. But so those are some of the things that occur to me that I feel like I would like to know, that would give me a sense of, what we're paying for the audit and what services we're providing by the town and what we're getting for that. So that's what I wanted to download from my brain. And I'm not a financial specialist, but that's how I think about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Shoemaker. Councilor Dolan.
Thank you. I also have similar questions to Councilwoman Shoemaker. As a matter of fact, I'm still a little bit confused. Is there a report for us to review tonight? Like an actual report? Did you prepare one, Director Jackson, for us to review? I think you're muted.
You're muted, Councilor Jackson. Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, so I provided to you the contractual documents that demonstrate what
Yes.
our requirements are and what the requirements are for the vendor. When going through the couple of hundred pages of documents, I could not, in good conscience, present them in a public sphere. So I wanted to talk about them verbally and provide the opportunity for anyone of interest to review such documents in either my office or the town attorney's office. And so I have those prepared and ready to go. But I also wanted to, I think it was Councilor McDowell who said, there are rinks around who run a profit. Why can't we?
Okay, but so we understand that we're not here to make a profit. So that's like really far off of what we wanted to do tonight. I think tonight we were really hoping for this report that we've requested a couple of times. We requested it in writing on April 10th, and then we requested it again as a reminder on May 13th. And I think it was requested in writing once before, once we went through the management letter with the auditor who insisted that we have it. And so this report, there's nothing confidential that we're asking for in this report. We want to see a summary of the rink revenues and the expenses from 2017 to 2020, similar to what Ms. Shoemaker was asking for. We wanted to see a detailed list of those revenues, what entity they were received from and when. And we wanted a detailed list of the expenses, what vendors were paid, and the reason for each disbursement. And I'm just reading off of the emails that have already been sent. We're all acting as if this is the first time this came up, but the reason this is on the agenda for tonight is because we've been discussing it for well over 2 months. And so we're waiting on this analysis in this report. And I apologize for being impolite and cutting you off. I was just trying to say, we're not really ready to hear about solutions yet because all of us need to digest what it is that happened in the past so that we can understand where we are today. And I do realize that the rink doesn't make money because of subsidies, but before we even get there and before we talk about, do we want to add a sheet of ice or do we want to sell it or do we want to maintain it as it is? We just need to spend some time understanding what that income is, what those expenses are, if we can account for all of the income, if we can understand the expenses, I don't know. And so that is the report that we were looking for tonight. Can we talk about a time frame to get this report?
Yeah, you can have it tomorrow morning. So for example, this is 2018. Simple, easy rink revenue, but it's not really simple, easy rink revenue. Because some things are blended into utilities, etc. So we know what the cost is for the rink,
So
and we know what we pay for that. And so that is really where I was thinking that this conversation was going. So yeah, I can. Before I go to bed tonight, I can put together a series of numbers. I'm not entirely certain that that is going to tell the story of the rink, though.
So Director Jackson, thanks, but we are looking for a series of numbers that tie back to bank statements. And those bank statements, by the contract that you sent us.
And I have the bank statements to back that up.
Terrific, sir, because those bank statements actually say that the town of Hamden is supposed to be the second on those statements. And so we can ask a simple question to Attorney Gruen, not that we need an answer right now, but perhaps those are public documents because Ice Rink is still owned by the town and the bank statement is supposed to, by contract, have our name on it. And the only information, the only expenses and revenues that should flow through that bank statement are town revenue and expenses. It should be the deposits that our rink manager is collecting on our behalf and the expenses that they're paying on our behalf, and then we reimburse them. So perhaps we could check into that. But yeah, if you could tomorrow, I mean, it doesn't have to be as soon as tomorrow, but yes, if you could tomorrow send us these.
Yeah, I want to be done with the ice rink, Councilor Nolan. So if I got to stay up all night, that's fine with me.
All right. Well, please don't stay up all night. But I agree. I would love to put this situation to bed and get be able to review the audit that we did and follow up with your summary of the revenues and the expenses and any other questions that the counselors are going to ask tonight. Thank you. I'll let conversation continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dolan. Councilor McDowell.
Thank you. I appreciate that my previous remarks were well taken and understood, even if my requests have not been met today. We all submitted questions via email or were given that opportunity last week, and it feels like those questions are not being answered this evening. And so at what stage can we expect to be able to have a conversation where those questions are directly answered?
Mr. McDowell, I do have notes on every question that I have.
Were you provided the questions that council members emailed last week?
Yeah, there were 6 or 7 questions. I want to say that 3 of them were rink related and 4 of them were others. But unfortunately, I'm working at my small desk in an alcove in my home, and
okay. So you received my questions from Thursday evening, asking about the contract. You have those questions.
specifically about the contract.
I want to be careful about the questions I'm asking here. I do have questions that I believe require an executive session, and it was my understanding that we have that option today. I believe that the answers to some of my questions could potentially help someone that we could find ourselves litigating against at some point. So I want to
Okay.
be careful about asking those questions on the record.
All right, so I'm looking at the questions submitted. How does the administration plan to pay for the deficit and other funds is one. Rink issues,
On Thursday evening, I emailed the council president and the clerk of the council 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish questions. A couple of them had subpoints, but 6 questions regarding the contract, any potential violations, and what recourse might be able to be taken if there were violations to the contract.
no, I believe the questions that I have predate that. There are 7 questions in total, and they were incorporated into the agenda of tonight's meeting.
Okay, so I've just forwarded you those questions that I submitted on Thursday evening. So you now have those. Hopefully
I was pretty sure I sent everything.
It's neither here nor there. It's fine. If it was a miscommunication, that's fine. It happens. We were busy with budget. But it was my understanding that this was going to be the opportunity for those answers. And even if Thursday didn't make it across, on February 26th, I submitted a FOIA request, and I'm going to read this verbatim, requesting all existing documents, including agreements, disclosures, and financial transactions relating to Lewis Astorino Ice Rink at 595 Mix Ave, going back to July 1st, 2015. If there are any documents that should be available but are not, please list the missing documents and explain their absence. So that was submitted on February 26th. On March 2nd, I received partial compliance for that FOIA request, which was basically 3 documents relating to the contract itself. That contract, which we also received this morning as a council. So at this point, like, are these requests that can be met, or should I be having conversations with the state government at this point? I don't mean to be confrontational, but this has gone on for months at this stage. Are these requests that can be met?
I would defer to the town attorney on that.
Okay. Attorney Gruen, would you mind, is that something you can speak to or not at this time? And listen, Attorney Gruen, you have been completely responsive to my requests. I would imagine that any failure to comply with this request was not in your department. So if you're unprepared to speak to that at this point, I believe that would be fair.
I can speak very briefly. I recall your request, and I know that we responded in part by sending you what was readily available. I think your request, along with a few others, came in just as budget season was ongoing. And I think that the finance department has been overwhelmed with requests. And as far as I recall, to the extent there are those documents that are responsive to your request, they're public. There's not going to be a lot of documents that are not public documents. I don't recall your request specifically, and I don't recall if they have responsive documents, but to the extent that they do, in some, for the most part, I think they will be public. So you should, so the short answer is, I think so.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'd be happy to provide some additional time. I really thought that this evening was going to be the moment to have this conversation. I'd be happy to provide some additional time for that FOIA request. But that FOIA request was submitted to the town attorney's office on February 26th. And I believe it was disseminated, because I believe having a conversation after that, it was disseminated to the appropriate departments for compliance. So the last thing I'll say, because it's just apparent to me that we're not going to be getting any answers to any questions this evening. The last thing I will say is that I have not accepted that we are not here to make a profit. The numbers do not add up. That is just not something that I am willing to accept this evening. Any lack of profitability is due to poor management. Now, for sure, I'll offer some extenuating circumstances over the coronavirus pandemic. Certainly, pandemic was not the time to be having people skating around inside, and so there were safety precautions taken, and that perhaps increased expenses and reduced revenues. That's fine. However, prior to March 2019, meaning as recently as fiscal year. Sorry, I should say March 2020. So as recently as fiscal year, 18, 19, we should be able to see clear profitability in the ice rink if it's being managed appropriately. So I don't accept that we are not here to make a profit. There are certainly ways we could go about making sure that this is a revenue producing asset for the town. In my understanding, when I was in high school, the reason that we privatized the rink, despite the staunch opposition of our two-time state championship winning hockey team, was for the purpose of reducing expenses and increasing income. So the fact that that's not something we've been able to do, and yet our hockey players have suffered and paid more money for it, doesn't seem to be helping anyone here. So I'll leave it at that. I appreciate it. I hope the next time we meet on this matter, it can be more productive. Thank you.
And Councilman Dodd, I was just checking. I thought I forwarded all those documents. I resent. I just put it again. I think maybe there was a group of them and then maybe not a group of them. So hopefully, Mr. Jackson, I hope you have them all now, and then we can figure out a future date to make sure we have everything all set. Councilor Wetmore.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a lot of concerns about the ice rink too. We're supposed to be getting 50% of their gross revenue. And I would like to see where we got that. I mean, if you're on a board of directors and you ask for the sheets, the financial sheets, you get them. I don't see why it makes, I don't care who the vendors are, and that should be a public record. So I think we should be able to get like a spreadsheet or whatever, however you do it on the computer. From the day that we let the management be given away at $250,000, we paid for all the repairs. We paid for all the utilities. We paid for the repairs of everything over $1,000. I mean, we paid for the insurance, we paid for the dumpsters, we paid for the police service. I mean, I really went over this contract, but I still think it should be turning a profit. I don't believe that all the rink gets is $325 from youth hockey. I would have to see that because my grandson played hockey and they paid a heck of a lot more than $325 for each child. So, and I was under the impression that the high school was supposed to be carrying their own load. So I would really like to see what's going on. The profits, the losses, I'll go along with the loss from last year because the rink probably wasn't used. But it's hard for me to believe we're down 8.8 million in revenues and expenses are 8.2 million. I just don't understand that. So I definitely want to see some facts, some sheets, and I want them to be the sheets from the computer where they were logged in. I don't want to see just a bunch of numbers. I want to see the exact. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wetmore. That 8.8 and 8.2 is town-wide. The debits and credits for the rink are a little bit harder. I have to combine a bunch of things, so it's going to end up in a spreadsheet. It's going to end up in a spreadsheet that was crafted by my own hand. I can back it up with document runs from Munis, but in order to make it readable, the only way that that's going to happen is if I create the spreadsheets. I apologize. I came in tonight thinking about solutions to the deficit in the ice rink. That was my priority. It seems like that is not the priority. Well, let me rephrase that. It seems like there is a different set of steps that the council is looking for in this regard.
We're just looking for a clear financial sheet that tells us the money in and the money out. That's what we're looking for. That's all I'm looking for, because I agree with Councilman McDowell. If we don't turn a profit, we should at least be breaking even, because he's supposed to be out marketing the rink to sell ice time. I mean, there's just so much, you have to take last year out of it, like the pandemic out of it. But I think we have to at least be breaking even. And I just need to see why we're not. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I know that Mr. Caesar has another meeting at 8 o'clock. Before he has to jump off of this one, if it pleases the council,
Not me.
he may have something to say. Oh, I'm sorry, Craig Caesar.
Mr. Caesar?
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So the rink has been a very complicated issue for many, many years. When the rink first went private, I was actually a councilman, so I never envy what you folks do on a night-to-night basis, and I respect all of you for that. The bottom line with this right now is, Mr. Jackson alluded to it earlier. Looking at the numbers, I've been studying the numbers. It's not my professional place to study the numbers, but being a student of the game with this, I've had, again, as I stated before, I was a councilman when it began. I actually have a child who played hockey throughout the Hamden program and through the high school program, just finishing this year as well. It's very, very complicated. I think there's a lot to be said, though, for the subsidies that are involved here. I know folks might not want to hear about that, but to go back to the point about whether it's making money or whether it's not making money, to me, it's just this simple. Regardless of who's running the rink, I think we can all agree that the electric bill will still be the same, the water bill will still be the same, the gas bills, the utilities, Zamboni, anything like that, whether it's us running it or someone else running it. I go back to when this thing came out. There's 3 to 4 full-time maintainers that work there. There's a rink director that worked there. The salaries were enormous. The overtime was enormous back then. And let's cut to the chase, in my opinion, with this. We're paying $260,000 to the management company, and then the profit sharing segment per contract for last year was about another $50,000. So we're ultimately paying $300,000 out of our pockets to the vendor to operate the rink. Is it perfect? Is it not? I mean, that's an argument or a debate for another day. But I can assure you that the cost, going back again to the only comparison we currently have, is in the era when the town ran it. I can assure you that it costs significantly more than $300,000 a year to operate the ice rink. Going under the pretenses or the accepted fact that the utilities will be the same regardless, the expenses will be the same regardless. Been through the numbers. I was, again, as I said, when it first went through, I was actually a councilman. I witnessed it from that seat. I witnessed from a parent perspective on the costs involved in a child playing hockey. I've witnessed it through the high school. I mean, it all needs to be discussed. If we're going to be fair to the debate, if we're going to be fair to the argument about whether it should make money or not, Mr. McDowell, sure, it should make money. I agree with you. But we give up an awful lot. I mean, let's just talk about a neighboring town, West Haven. West Haven High School has one sheet of ice like we do, same. There are 3 high schools that play out of West Haven rink. You have the West Haven High School. You have Notre Dame of West Haven. You have Amity that plays there. We are very, very good to our high school program. We're very, very good to our youth hockey program. We provide still yet the most affordable youth hockey program around, one of the most, because of the fact of what we, unfortunately, fortunately, we're happy to do, not happy to do. We subsidize. That's what it is. There's no other way to talk about it. These are serious dollars that we're talking about here. I'm not sitting here telling you that I think that the high school should pay or not pay. That's not up to me to decide. But the value of what they get is enormous. We need to be fair to this conversation. We need to be fair to the whole operation. Every bit of it has a dollar amount. I mean, I by no means am I suggesting that we change any of it. That's not up to me. That's up to you folks. It's up to the administration. It's not up to me, but these numbers are real. They need to be recognized, whether we like them or not. And really, it's very complicated. And I think, obviously, we're going to move on from tonight into other nights talking about this or what have you. But I really just think that we just need to be global in our thinking of exactly what's going on here. That's all. And by no means I'm not endorsing any, whatever everybody decides to do with it. It's fine with me. I'm just giving you my insight from being around it for many, 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 many years. We just need to keep our eyes open, keep our eye on the ball. It is a major, major subsidy that takes place in that building if we're going to call that a business. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Caesar. Mr. Jackson, you had been speaking before Mr. Caesar. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I think many of you know me well enough to know that, I try to walk in the room without problems, but with solutions. And that was my intention tonight. It seems like we have to take a step backward, and I'm happy to do that. So overnight and in the morning, I will put together the spreadsheet that Councilwoman Wetmore requested year over year. Here are the costs. Here are the revenues. Here are the subsidies. And from that it'll be a one-pager. You can make a determination as to what you want to do.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Councilor Whitmore, did you have anything else you wanted to respond to?
Yes, I just don't understand when you say it's a one pager. I mean, we're talking like 5 years. It should have more than one page. I really do think that. I'm not an accountant. I'm not anything like that, but I do know that my bank statements even have more than one page over 5 years. So.
Yeah, and Counselor, I have hundreds of pages, but I'm not sure that that's going to be useful in a way that saying, okay, so 2017, here are the expenditures and here are the major categories. Here are the subsidies, and this is, how we ended up in the negative $700,000 range in the audit. So I'm trying to simplify it. There will be plenty of backup behind that one pager. But it seems like that is the view that the council has requested of me.
What I'm requesting is all of the expenses and all of the revenue. That's what I'm
Right, certainly, and I have every check issued by every check in, every check out.
I'm sure you do, but I would like to see that. And I
Yep,
think some of the other
and
council people would too.
yeah, I just don't, it's not, because of the information on those checks, like the routing numbers and the account numbers, putting it out in the public sphere is something that I cannot do. So I'm happy to show all of that to any member of council if you want to come to my office or to the town attorney's office. But it's not, it's unsafe to put that out in the public sphere, just as if any one of the council members, sent a check that had a routing number, an account number, and an address on their check. It's not fair for anyone to put that in the public sphere.
I understand that. I don't need to see the checks. I just need to see the ledger or whatever you keep. I'm sure it's not a ledger now, but whatever you keep, I don't need to see, I want to see who the vendors are because they're supposed to be getting a bid, 3 bids for each thing. I mean, I read over this contract backwards and forwards today, and there's a lot of things in there I don't think they're doing. So I just want to see what they are doing. Are they getting the 3 bids? Are we logging in? I mean, are they sending us the money when they're supposed to be? Our receipts from the gross 50% revenue. I mean, that's what I want to see. I don't care about the names. I don't care about the checks. I just want to see, but I do want to see the vendors. So that's just what I want. And I'll give up my time and let someone else speak. Thank you.
Councilor Wetmore, Councilor Farmer, Mr. Caesar has not yet spoken on this. So I'm gonna go to him, to you, and then
Every time I've talked tonight, someone else has hopped in and taken up time. So I'm fine with letting Councilor Caesar talk. I just got to make it clear, like, if every other counselor has to talk on stuff, they can't just jump on my time. So we got to figure this out because it's just not going to work moving forward for every counselor to disrupt my time. I am duly elected like everybody else, so I'm fine with Councilor Caesar going, but I just got to make it clear moving forward, every other counselor can't hop in and out of my time. Through you, Council President.
there's time speaking. Councilor Caesar?
Thank you. I'm just going to jump on board with what everybody else has said. I totally agree with Councilperson Dolan and Wetmore on these issues. I think I'm a little disappointed we didn't get a report tonight in terms of an actual numbers to look at. And also, you look at the big picture here. I mean, I was on the board of Ed way back when, and I was never really in favor of privatizing the rink. I think it's been nothing but costly for us with legal settlements and things like that. You look at this going on now, we have no idea what's going on. So I really think we have to have these numbers. It's unfair as a fiscal authority to not have these numbers. I don't know why they're not there. I mean, we should have these numbers. And I appreciate Mr. Jackson coming in with a look to the future, but any good surgeon has to figure out what's going wrong first before we look to the future. And I want to find out what's going wrong because if there's stuff going wrong, we have a right to know. And as a council, we have a right to know, if people aren't paying their bills or if there's any type of situation going on with the contract, whatever it may be. We have a right to know that, and I think that's our just in terms of what we have a right to know. So I appreciate the effort thinking forward, but we have to know what's going on too. So I'm just going to jump on board and offer my support to what other council people have said. And I think a lot of council people here are very patient, also letting certain council people talk for long periods of time. And I think it's also important we all have a chance to speak and have a chance to have a say as well too, not just one person talking and filibustering possibly for a long period of time. Thank you.
Councilor Farmer?
Thank you, Council President. Through you I'm just gonna, we want to double check the checks so that we can make sure the taxpayers aren't being body checked. To say all of that, I've never stepped foot in the ice rink. So the first thing I want to know in terms of equipment, do they lease out equipment? Can people use equipment? How, if someone can speak to this who's been to the ice rink?
Yeah, I'm not sure that that Craig Caesar is still on the call. Yes, when it is appropriate by the governor's orders, there is a free skate where you can rent skates at a very low cost. Like you, Mr. Farmer, I went to Hamden High and we had ice skating was part of the gym.
My class did not have that, Director Jackson.
Oh, you did not? Oh.
We privatized it, so I have never stepped foot into that facility. So I have no attachment or connection to the ice rink. So I guess my next question is, in terms of utilities, how much does the town pay roughly a year?
About $113,000.
Is that factored into the $300,000 Director Caesar was speaking on?
Yes.
So utilities, the fee that we pay, those are in maintenance roughly, that's 300,000.
Exactly. The total cost is about $450,000 for us to run the rink. 15 years ago, it was closer to $1 million.
Great. So there's three different conversations for me happening here, right? There's the conversation of if this ice rink should be turning a profit, why is it not? And or if it should be breaking even, why isn't that happening? The second question for me, which might not be raised for other counselors, is equity. Because when I hear these numbers, I cannot think of a thing that we, the town of Hamden, are subsidizing for individuals of a certain group to participate, to be active in our community. Cannot think of one subsidy or program to this level that we do in Southern Hamden that affects one group of people. So that is a conversation I'm interested in getting into. That maybe that is where I'm thinking, but other counselors are not. That's the second question for me. Now the third question, really, which you brought information to speak to, which is what is the administration's appetite with dealing with this, right? Because we do want to know the first question. I think the second question, it'd be great to figure that out. But the third question really is, if moving forward, if we have these numbers that we should be able to see that have allowed the administration to come up with a plan like creating another sheet of ice or selling off the parcel of land, like there has been some cost analysis at the government center. So first, people want to know, how did you get the numbers for a cost assessment of what would be beneficial in a fix? Because you need numbers to do that. But for me, if you have anything to speak on that tonight, I would like to know what are the cost savings or projections of putting down another sheet of ice? What has the administration thought about canceling our contract, getting us out of this ice rink? What is the projection of selling off this land, if that's a thing? If those things are there and flushed out, great. We'd also love that when all the other documentation is sent. But I'm going to agree with Counselor Caesar that we kind of, if we're going to do surgery and potentially amputate, we need to know how we got here, right? Because we don't want this infection to grow back. And I just want to point of personal privilege. I hope that this experience for the administration is an opportunity to get a better understanding of when we come back to the golf course, because many of these same questions, many of these same thought patterns, many of these same things are going to come into account again. So I hope this is a learning opportunity so that as we go into these other things that the town is subsidizing, that basically the same line of questioning is going to be asked and that the same request for documents is going to be asked. So if you can speak to the administration's plan to mitigate, great. If you need more time, definitely understandable. We just went through a very long budget process. And I am still cognizant that you are a fairly new finance director. Through you.
Well, I thank you, Mr. Farmer. In fact, we are, you know, taking it one day at a time based upon the details of the day. So our big issue right now is lining up the changes from the budget because we have to get it out and we have to get the tax office on board and we have to get the tax bills out for cash flow purposes. And those of you in the business of accounting and funds know that cash flow is critical. So we can't miss the mark on that. So that is in fact what we are really focused in upon. Councilor Farmer, the notion of how we move forward is reliant, in my humble opinion, is reliant upon these conversations. And so understanding where you want to go and understanding where we want to go and trying to find a pathway between those is what these meetings are designed to do. There's nothing you said with which I disagree. There is nothing that you said that I choose to challenge. I just want to make it clear that all of these things take the conversation first, and then they take the time to move them forward. And so we should understand and recognize such.
I appreciate that for clarity for everyone else. I'll just make it simple. As of right now, I don't see any reason to subsidize one group in town to the detriment of the general taxpayer, and I'm looking for evidence to convince me otherwise. But as of right now, I'm not convinced, and I'm also concerned that the taxpayers' money was not protected, to which I'm like, cool, I want to go and find it. So that's kind of where I am right now. I'm hoping when we get this information, all those things will be clarified. Just to simplify it from my perspective of kind of where the conversation is, I think to my colleagues, I'm working backwards. I more want to be like, cool, how do we figure out what we're doing with our budget? And then let's figure out this cash flow issue with the rink. So through you, Council President, I appreciate the time and I hope I was succinct.
Thank you, Councilor Farmer. Councilors McDowell and Wetmore, Mr. Weber has not yet had a chance to speak on this topic. So with
Absolutely.
Councilor Weber.
Yes, I'm having some light connectivity issues, so just let me know if you cannot hear. Hearing fine. Okay, perfect. Thank you, and through you to Director Jackson. I'm just a little concerned I'm really concerned. And I know that, as you indicated to me before, that this is like a small bucket kind of thing, and we're looking for bigger buckets. But this has like I feel like we're in a push and pull around this in terms of like, transparency. And it's kind of, concerning to me because I feel like, yes, all the information is in your office. And yes, and maybe there's some sensitive information. Absolutely, I'm sure it is. And I feel like you kind of like skipped ahead, and start talking about solutions before we really got to the crux of, where the problems lie, so we don't have repeated problems. And so my concerns are with the reporting. Can you like specifically speak to how the management reports the information to the town and to your office? And why is it that we don't, and I keep talking about the continuity thing, and I'm trying to just figure out why is it that we don't have some type of standardized reporting system that will allow for a lot of these questions to be answered without you having to prepare 1-pagers, 5-pagers, and flipping through different machinations and, at your bedtime.
Thank you, Councilor Weber. We have worked since actually before I got here. It started in October. We did an iterative process with the managers of the rink and have come to a report that they say is great and we say is great. And so that is one of the things that I will be providing to the council tomorrow. It shows in large buckets, it says, okay, this is the Hamden youth hockey bucket. This is the Hamden Public Schools bucket. This is the Cheshire Public Schools bucket, etc. And we think that it's, we have taken the opportunity to shake hands on it. And we think that that's the way that we're gonna proceed. So one of the things that you will see is the reporting mechanism, the standardized reporting mechanism that you will see moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Anything further, Mr. Weber?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor McDowell.
Thank you. I appreciate Councilwoman Wetmore's remarks and requests. In particular, I think she said a lot of what I was about to say, so she saved us there. We need written actions. I don't see issues right now. Am I being heard right now? How
Is it me or is it Councilor?
am I?
I'm
Is my
having
audio coming
difficulties.
through?
Yeah, try with that.
It's
Try,
definitely.
yeah, that's a little better, I think.
It's definitely me. Is this better now, or are we still having issues?
Yeah.
All right, great. Apologies for that. If that happens again, we can move on to Councilwoman Wetmore. Forgive me, I don't know what was heard, so I'll start from the beginning. I appreciate Councilwoman Wetmore's remarks and her requests. She definitely saved us some time because she said what I was gonna, a little bit of what I was gonna say. We need those financials written. I don't need to see checks with people's personal routing numbers on them. I don't need them. I need financials. I need extensive financials, a list of transactions. I also, I don't want to speak for Councilman Palmer. I want to make that clear because I know that this was said in response to something that he said, and he may feel differently. So I want to make it clear that I'm not speaking, I'm speaking for myself. But where we want to go at this stage, I think does not matter. We need to know where we are, and that's not something that we know. And I don't think we can make a decision about where we want to go until we know where we are and why we're here, right? I think we need to see those financials. We need to see the numbers in a way that makes sense, because right now the numbers are just not adding up. And I think once we see that, then we can have a conversation about where we want to go. But I don't think we are in a position to be able to make those statements at this time, or to be able to have that conversation at this time. With all that said, I'm going to ask that nobody takes an all-nighter to do this. I'm fine waiting a few days. Again, I don't want to speak for my colleagues. I'm fine waiting a few days for this. We have had 8 meetings in the last 8 days. We've had 1 day off and 1 day with 2 meetings, right? So we've had 8 meetings in the last 8 days. Let's get some rest. Let's make sure that this work is done right. And then we can move forward. I don't want to take up any more of anybody's free time than we already have. I recognize that some of these we are all committing time in addition to what we signed up for, but and I appreciate that. But let's make sure we're at least, especially after such an arduous week, let's make sure we're getting some good rest, respecting ourselves and our labor and each other's labor. And I'm fine waiting a few days. I mean, quite frankly, right, we've been having this conversation for a number of months in a piecemeal way. So I'm fine waiting a few days if it means that we're able to be respectful of each other's time. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you very much. I look forward to the next conversation on this.
Thank you, Councilor McDowell. Councilor Wetmore.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Hamden is not good at privatizing things. We have this as an example, and we have Laurelview. With that being said, why isn't this in the budget? I mean, why don't the rink have lines in the budget? Laurelview does. I don't know why the ice rink isn't. It never has been, except when it was in recreation. And I really think, I know it's too late probably this year, but I really think we need to get that in the budget. And I'm willing to wait a few days for this report so that at least we'll get what we're looking for. Thank you.
The rink, the management fee is in the budget for the first time, $257. I think it's in the recreation budget. But for the first time, the management fee is in the budget, which will start to draw down on the legacy deficit for the ice rink.
Thank you.
So it's not a fund, but it is in the operating budget.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Councilor Dolan.
Oh, thank you. Just following up on what Councilwoman Wetmore said, since this isn't in the budget, have we paid them in this fiscal year? Because I haven't seen any transfers for it, but I know this came up once before, and I thought you said that we were current. So how is it that we were able to pay them this year, or are we in arrears and we owe them?
We are current with our payment on the management fee. The management fee is currently $250,000 by contract. It moves to $257,000. That contract is how we resolve those payments through accounts payable, and we paid them for the quarter in early April, and they paid us the revenue of $60,000 last week.
So what line item did we use to pay them?
It's done through AP. I would have to. I don't have a good answer to that, Counselor. I will get that answer.
Okay. Yeah, if you could, just because I would expect to see a transfer for it because there is no line item in the budget. And so if we're making those payments, it's just curious to know how we are actually making them. I know that last year, which was only my first year on the council, we actually got a transfer first that we had to approve. And then we did approve it and we found the money for it and we paid them. But I've not seen one yet this year.
Okay, yeah, I was not here for those payments. So it seemed
Yeah.
yeah, I will let me research that and get back to you in the next day or so.
Okay, and you know what? I'll put it in an email with the rest of my requests, which are more sort of audit and finance in nature, because I know that a lot of people ask for different things tonight, and this way you could look and sort of put together our written request, and there won't be any confusion. And I will echo Mr. McDowell's statements. You know, please don't pull an all-nighter. It's more important.
Well, I appreciate it if you don't mind CCing or saying it through Miss Renta. She has been exceptional in sort of coordinating these things.
Yeah, I will send the email again, and I will add this last question to it.
Okay.
Where there should be no confusion when we meet, you know, a week or 2 weeks from now, or just deliver the report without a meeting so that people have the time to digest it, and then we can come back as a full council and each ask our questions again.
Yeah, that sounds like that's exactly what I'm hoping to accomplish.
Okay. All right. We all want to get through this. Thank you.
Since we're gaining some clarity here, and Ms. Dolan, you know, you're speaking now. The next finance committee meeting would be June 7th. Is that too far away for us?
Yes.
Then we'll.
It's too far. It's too far to get the initial information. It's fine to put it on for a discussion then, but I would really hope that folks would have it at least a week or two before that. And that way they can ask their questions, they can send them back. And then on June 7th, we can have yet another meeting and then, you know, if we know where we are and we know how we got there, perhaps we can all talk about solutions at that point.
So how about we look for, Mr. Jackson, if this works out, the 31st as a compilation of the report, disseminated to council, then we can meet on it or have a, maybe we can have a special meeting of the council specifically to receive this report or something like that. Or,
Yeah, I hope we got a lot of work to do in finalizing the budget, but I hope that I can have that out before the end of this week.
Okay. And so we'll figure out the details later, but we'll talk amongst ourselves and figure out the best way to.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I do want to be fair, but I also want to be cognizant of the fact that this has been ongoing for over a year and we really just got to get this information out there. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bonadies and welcome, Councilor Bonadies, you made it. You're muted, Councilor Bonadies.
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing me. I don't want to pile on Finance Director Jackson. You do look exhausted. I'm sorry. I have to be honest. You just look exhausted and I'd like you to get some rest and then put your head to this task. But it is something we have been inquiring about. I started asking about a year ago before your time on coming back as Finance Director. And I just want to know if you are receiving the monthly reporting as is stated in the contract.
We are. We have, in fact, we met last week with the with the representatives of the management company. We have monthly statements going back to the
Okay.
origination of the contract. And so we're in that regard, we are aligned in how
Okay,
we're
so those,
proceeding.
so the spirit of the contract is being upheld. And, you know, I guess I'm really curious about the off hours that the ice rink, that the ice time is being sold to other towns. And there is a formula by which the town receives its revenue. So those are the numbers I'm very, very curious about. So I'll be looking very close attention to those. So when you prepare the report, would be an area that I'd like the detail and attention.
Okay, so the first page probably of the report that I send to you tomorrow will be the spreadsheet created by the town of Hamden and delivered to the operator, and they accepted it and they said it was good and we will move forward, is exactly that sheet that you just referenced, Councilor Bonaduce. So you will be able to see all of the payments made to the manager, what the proportion of those payments are to the town of Hamden, be it 100% or 50%. You will see the subsidies. How many hours did we utilize that were not charged at full market rate? So I think you'll get exactly what you're looking for.
Okay, and I know hockey's expensive. I know ice time is expensive. It is an amenity that you know, does it provides Hamden a lot of pride. We are a hockey town. If not everyone participates, but it's something of a town pride.
Hey, I play football.
Right. I mean, they're niche, but Hamden is
Believe it or don't.
in their hockey, and they've got quite a few legends to show for it. So I thank you for your attention to that. I'll be looking forward to this report and get some rest.
Thank you, Council Bonaduce and soccer player. Kathleen, Council Shoemaker.
Yeah, just a quick point of information. We did see the management fee in the last line of the finance department expenses in our budget book. And Mr. Jackson, as a testament to the fact that you were attempting to incorporate this into the finance department, it doesn't have a complete number yet. It's a
TBD.
TBD. It's a 10580 TBD, and it's the last line that you tacked on at the bottom of the finance expenses. Now I'm confused because it says 257,000, and I thought you said 275,000. So that's
no, it used to be it was 250 for the first period of the contract, and then it moves to 257. And
okay.
so this is the first year at 257. So that is the accurate number.
Perfect.
But it is the first time that is actually in the budget, so we can
Yes.
track that line.
Yes.
And start to
Yeah.
you know firm up what does it cost to have an ice rink.
Yeah. So your intention is clear in the fact that you created that line, and we did look at it and flag it, and there it is. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor Shoemaker. All right, so we do have a plan. We'll work on building the report. You know, Mr. Jackson, get it to us you know, as you can, but hopefully by the end of the month, and then we'll decide whether a full council meeting, perhaps a special meeting on the first round of committees, or as part of the finance committee. Thinking it over, perhaps a a special meeting just so that every counselor can be involved and not just members of the finance committee. Anything else for, I would like to point out, I mean, one of the things that started us on this journey was including this number in our budget came about from our interim finance director, Mr. Hull. And I think that was part of the stuff that, began. He noticed that there was no expense line for this. And I believe Ms. Dolan made note of that too. And then now we've been thinking about this a lot more. So credit where credit is due, and I'm glad that that line is in the budget. That's much better. Any other questions for Mr. Jackson regarding the ice rink or the finance report in general?
If I may, Mr. President, a couple of items. Item number 5 on the agenda regarding debt restructure. We do anticipate a debt restructure, but those numbers are not included in the proposed budget. Item number 7, cost breakdown of the economic development, the HEDC funds. They were paid on 7/16/20 and 8/07/20 as fees for service. And
Just for clarity, you're referring to your list of information requests, not tonight's agenda?
well, I don't know. This is what I printed out as tonight's agenda. So it's those are questions asked. So if you're looking at something different, I apologize. Private duty receivables is the last thing that I have on my list.
I think those were information requests, Mr. Jackson, because our for instance, you mentioned item 5. That's the appointment of Gabriel Kutzner to the Veterans Commission.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's not what I'm looking at.
I think those are
So I will not use numbers. I will talk in concepts. There was a question about private duty receivables. In 2020, the budget was 2.5 million. We collected 2.762 million. In 2021, the budget was 2.25 million. To date today, we have collected 2.220 million.
Okay, thank you.
So those are just answers to outstanding questions. Thank you, sir.
Councilor Dolan?
Sorry, I did have a question about the finance numbers. Director Jackson, you said that you expected us to have a pretty generous surplus at the end of this year based on the revenues and expenses that you stated. And I know you said that the revenues were conservative, so that's good. So does that mean that the surplus will be that $9 million that we planned on? We had budgeted for a $9 million surplus based on our debt restructure. Is that what you mean? It'll be in that neighborhood, or you just meant it would be more than zero?
Well, it will definitely be more than zero. I was not here for the discussions around the plan. So depending on how, and I'll know a little bit more later this week, depending on how the federal government disperses the COVID funds, in order to break even, we need $500,000, and we're going to get millions of dollars. So depending on the timeline, that's the way it's going to play out. But the So the plan, if memory serves me, was 6, 7, 8 for a total of 21. So I'm not sure about the 9 million, but I do think the 6 million in that 6, 7, 8 methodology is reasonable, because that is less than half of what we anticipate from the federal government.
Okay, so just so everybody knows, I'm referring to the document from the debt restructure. It's page 2. I know you don't have it in front of you, but when he's saying 6, 7, 8, and I said 9, there seems to be some discrepancy. And you know, obviously anything that can fall to the fund balance is what we want, but I was just curious to know when you said that we were going to have a major surplus, if you meant we would be in the neighborhood of where we had planned to be, or if you meant a surplus above and beyond that.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Dolan. Councilor Baez.
I just wanted to remind Director Jackson that I had also asked a question during the deliberations to know the estimated value of the land that we, for all intents and purposes, have given HEDC. So there has to be a list within their portfolio that we had given to the organization to manage, if I'm understanding correctly, and I want to know what the value of that was as we're moving to a different form of a relationship.
Thank you for the reminder, Counselor. I will get to you the property addresses and assessed values at the earliest opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further questions for Finance Director Jackson? Okay, thank you, sir. We'll move on. Item 7 is report of council liaisons, of which we have none. Item 8, approval of previous minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 19th? I'm sorry, Councilor Jackson, did you have another question?
Were you speaking to me or?
Oh, Councilor Farmer, do you have another question for Mr. Jackson?
No. I hope I'm not graying too fast. All jokes aside, I just wanted to request from through you, Council President, if we can request from the administration an update as well as this presentation on the legislative aid. I understand we were supposed to have a presentation, but the budget cycle didn't allow for that. But also would like an update on what of our priorities past this legislative cycle and what we are earmarking or looking at for next legislative cycle through you, Council President.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilor Farmer. Anything else? All right, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 19th, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
We'll say moved by Councilor Farmer, seconded by Councilor McDowell. All in favor of approving minutes, please indicate by saying or showing aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstention. I'm abstaining. I was not here.
Ro Lewis has abstained. Next will be our consent calendar. There's a few items that I'm going to pull. Item 7, item 8, and item 4. Are there any other items folks would like to see removed from the consent calendar? Councilor McDowell?
If there is no further request for removal, I wanted to make a motion just to combine some items out of respect for everybody's time. I'm hoping to make a motion to, I will make a motion to consider items 1 through 3 together and items 5,
Well,
9.
Mr. McDowell, the consent calendar, they're pre-bundled.
You're right. Thank you.
I removed those particular ones because I thought people might want to say something about those folks.
You're right. I'm so sorry. I'm used to us going off of the right. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
Excuse me, President McGarry,
Yes.
number 3 needs to be amended.
Oh, yes, thank you. And I'll remove number 3. Thank you so much, Ms. Renta. And pulling number 3 as well. The number needs to be amended. We'll get that from our finance team has it, I'm hoping. Councilor Farmer?
Just a point of clarification on what items are being pulled.
3, 4, 7, and 8.
Okay.
Does, and these items, just for clarification for anyone who might be watching, the consent calendar is items from our committees that passed unanimously. I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent calendar, which is items 1, 2, 5, 6.
Moved.
Second.
9 through 18. Moved by Ms. Bias, seconded by Mr. Farmer. Discussion on the consent calendar. Councilor Shoemaker?
Yeah, I'll just chime in with the usual word of appreciation for all the people who step up to serve on our commissions. We have an expansive group of talented folks who volunteer time through our commissions, and they're great help to the town in many ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shoemaker. Further discussion on the consent calendar. Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the consent calendar, please indicate by saying and showing aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Consent calendar passes. I'll ask for a motion to approve. Well, actually, I guess we'll go to our regular agenda, which now includes, which is item 1. And now item 2 will be the refund of motor vehicle taxes. 4, the resolution for the street sign. 5, the appointment of community development manager, and 6, appointment of chief of staff. Item 1 on the regular agenda, a resolution with respect to the authorization, issuance, and sale of not exceeding $18 million to the town of Hamden, Connecticut general obligation refunding bonds. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
By Ms. Shoemaker, seconded by Ms. Roy Lewis. And so this is, Mr. Jackson, the straight up refinance. We are just taking and getting a better rate or interest rate on these. If you could just remind us about that.
That is correct. No extension of maturity dates. And it's just a straight up savings of $1.4 million.
I'd like to go on public record saying I like that. So thank you, Mr. Jackson. Discussion on item 1. And seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying or showing aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Item 1 passes. Item 2 on our regular agenda, refund of motor vehicle taxes collected between July 1st, 2020 and June 30th, 2021. Overpayments on grand list. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Farmer, seconded by Mr. McDowell. It's my understanding this needs to be amended, Mr. Jackson?
The memo came to me. The memo comes right to council. It doesn't go to finance.
All right. What's the number, Ms. Renta?
The number is $3,798.49.
I'll make a motion to amend the number 4,165.82 to $3,798.49.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Shoemaker. Discussion. All in favor, will this require two? Wait, Ms. Baez.
Is it, did the original committee that approved this approve the first number? Wouldn't it have to go through that committee again? Or is it fine that they approved the wrong number? Just ignore that baby back there.
They approved the correct number. One has been pulled out of the list, which is why the number was decreased.
Okay, I see. They approve each individual and then the sum is there. So the sum changed because one got pulled. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to check to make sure we're doing it okay.
Thank you. Councilor McDowell?
My fault. I probably should have lowered my hand. I was just speaking to the process. We can still amend things that come out of committee without it having to go back through committee. That's all. Thank you.
All right, and so let's, we're going to vote on the amendment and then vote on the number 2 in its entirety, just to be on the safe side. So all in favor of amending the number, please indicate by saying and showing aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? All right, and then all in favor of the item as amended, please indicate by showing and saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Item passes. Item 3, a resolution authorizing the donation of a street sign name and brackets and placement on the corner of Wooden and Mueller Drive in memory of Councilman Michael Kolokova Jr. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Weber. And obviously I moved this one just so we could speak to my deep pleasure at being able to memorialize Councilor Kolokova in this way. The administration is working to establish a date that we can have a dedication and small ceremony in his honor and memory. As soon as we get those dates, we'll let everyone know, and hopefully we can meet in person and just have a moment of remembrance and celebration. Further discussion on item 4. Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying or showing aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item passes. Oh, and I should note that this was also donated. Mr. Sendroff, do you remember I'm trying to remember the name off the top of my head.
I believe the company's name is Warning Lights,
Warning Lights. So
the Hamden company. Yes.
many thanks to Warning Lights for donating this and the sign that was for Mr. Ted Braza too. So that was very generous of them and much appreciated. Councilor Farmer?
There was an item I wanted to speak on that we voted on the consent calendar. So I just wanted to know if it would be appropriate towards the end of us doing our deliberations to make a point of personal privilege.
It's kind of not really a point of personal privilege, more I guess just an information request. So why don't we get up, we'll finish up 7 and 8 and then we'll sort of get that question clarified for you. Item 5 on our regular agenda, appointment of Community Development Manager, Julie Smith. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Shoemaker, seconded by Ms. Farmer. And again, pull this one just to say, just to give folks an opportunity they wish. Very pleased to see Ms. Smith taking on this role. Her accomplishments for this town are varied and deep, and I know she's going to bring her experience to this role. And so very much looking forward to see the great work she will do there and continue the work that Mr. Sendroff has done so well there. Councilor Farmer.
Thank you, Council President. Through you, as Councilor Shoemaker thanked everyone for their dedication on our boards and commissions, just second that sentiment as Councilor Annis did when he was on the council. In terms of a question, I guess my question through you maybe to the administration, I think Director Smith will do well in this job and definitely will be able to hopefully fill Mr. Sundroff's shoes and edify the work that was done there. I guess my question to the administration is how many boards and commissions do we have employees on? A individual employee on through you, Council President.
Mr. Sandroff, do you?
I would have to investigate that. I don't know offhand.
You can let us know next meeting.
Sure. So the question is, how many employees are on boards and commissions?
Well, that would be nice too, but more
Oh.
specifically, how many committees can a director be on? I don't, for a reference that I don't want to make Director Smith, the Jared Kushner of the town to solve all of our problems. I think she's capable to do much of that, but just to get a better understanding
Okay.
of how much of a burden can we put on individuals.
So how
Thank you,
many could
Council
one
President.
person be on?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
If I can jump in, there is no charter limitation. And so certain directors, based upon their, their overall penumbra of concerns, it may involve transportation, it may involve health, it may involve any number of things. So it can certainly vary, Counselor.
Well, I once again, I just want to reiterate, I feel Director Smith is capable and up to the task on many of these things. And I share the sentiment that Keith is at the heart of all of our issues and is the key to many of the solutions. Yeah, I still want to be cognizant of the load that we're putting on individual employees. So just to keep that in mind, and I appreciate my colleagues indulging me through you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer. Further discussion of items 5. Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying or showing aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Or items 5 passes. And then finally, item 6, the appointment of Chief of Staff, Adam Sendroff.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Shoemaker, seconded by Mr. Farmer. And again, just wanted to take the moment. Congratulations and thank you, Mr. Sendroff. Look forward to seeing all the great work you're going to do. And I know experience in Keith will be invaluable to you in understanding the community and the role that our government has to play. You're already doing a good job, and look forward to seeing how you continue to grow and make the role your own. Mr. Farmer, I'm done, but are you on fire?
I'd like to think always, Council President.
Okay. The floor is yours, Mr. Farmer.
Thank you. We in this great town of Hamden have a great deal of public servants that find the time to have many callings in this town, such as Director Jackson, Director Smith, and I think of no one who exemplifies that more than Mr. Sendroff in his many years of service to the town. So once again, thank you for all that you are doing and all that you will do. And I'm happy to see you appointed. On a second note, unrelated to you, but similar, I know some of my colleagues share in the frustration of the administration appointing people and then sending them to us. So just to reiterate, like Director Jackson, great. Mr. Sendroff, great. But if the names can be sent to us before people hop into the hot seat, because I think sometimes when we do that, we're just like, didn't we already hire you? So I hope the administration hears that. But welcome officially to the team through you, Council President.
Thank you, Farmer. Council Shoemaker.
Thank you. I just want to echo some of the sentiments of Councilor Farmer. I'm very pleased with the appointments and with some of the moving around of people. I feel like there's cross fertilization and tapping of very much talented expertise and dedication. And it's very good for Hamden. Very, very good. I'm very pleased. And Mr. Sendroff, it's your appointment at this moment, but we've had a series of appointments. Director Smith, Director Jackson, the new Planning and Development Director, which we haven't officially appointed yet, but we have some talented people who are ready to take the town to a more stable and creative place. And I'm very excited about the future. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shoemaker. Further comment on item 6. Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying or showing aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And then, Mr. Farmer, you had a question before we head out?
More a statement. I regret that I didn't get to say it earlier. I support Director Smith in joining the Transit Authority, our representative. But this is a concern that I've shared with the administration multiple times that I don't think was actually followed through on. Transportation is pivotal to economic development. It is pivotal to so many people first in need. And nothing against Director Smith, nor anything against a former Director of Planning and Zoning, Mr. Cops, but I would love to see someone on there who uses public transportation, right? I would love someone who is heavily interested in the sense that they either use the services or have unique credentials on the services. So I'm disappointed because we have 2 slots. I don't think either of these individuals I'm speaking on aren't open to suggestions or open to listening. But I'm disappointed that the administration did not put people first in need in the driver's seat, more or less. So I'm hoping with some of these committees and commissions where we can, that we can put people with expertise there so they can speak to the issues and best inform us. I'm happy to see this filled as well, as it's been a year and a half that we have not had these positions filled. So I am happy for that, but I just wanted to share that critique, is to make sure that we are pitting people who are best suited in boards and commissions on them so that we can all do better because of it through you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Farmer. And may I have a motion to adjourn?
So
We'll
moved.
move.
Second.
By Ms. Baez, seconded by Ms. Bonadies. Discussion. All right, so now I'll call for the vote. All in favor of adjourning, please indicate by saying or showing aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? All right, we are adjourned at 9:14 p.m. And we do have a little bit of a break here until June 7th. So enjoy it all. We've done a lot of work over the past few weeks. We deserve a little bit of a break.
Bye,
Good
everyone.
night, all.
Good night. Safe travels.
Good night.
Bye, everybody. Stay well.